Well, good evening, everyone. Hello there. My name is Meg Wheeler. I am the Democratic candidate for the Massachusetts State Senate in the Plymouth and Norfolk District. And I'm here tonight for our weekly community check-in. So hold on, got to fix the camera there. So I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe and healthy. There's been a lot obviously going on over the last few weeks, few months, and I know that it's a lot. I know that this has definitely been a year that feels overwhelming for a lot of people. So I'm just very glad to be here tonight to be able to share a few moments with you, to talk a little bit about everything that's been going on, just share a little bit with you about the campaign and where we're at on that, and of course to answer questions. So, it has been a really interesting time to campaign. And, I think I've said this maybe before, so you may have heard me say this, but, to me, a campaign is really just a very, very extended job interview, because I am interviewing to be your state senator, and I am sharing with you my vision and my priorities and answering your questions and really just showing you why I will be, the better state senator. And so, for me, the last few months have really been about how do the people who want to be state senator, how do they respond in a crisis? What does that look like? And I'm very proud of our team for the last few months and all of the work we've done. And I think we've, really tried to take our role very seriously in all of this, and to use our platform to share resources with you and to provide a place, for you to ask your questions, for all of us to have really tough conversations. And I think that's just a piece of what's to come. It's a piece of everything we want to do here on this campaign, because this campaign isn't just about the issues, although that's really important. I think it's also about creating an environment where more people can be engaged in this process, and where more people can have their voices heard, and where you can know what's going on in the state Senate, because I think that it's really hard to know what's going on. I don't think that, right now the level of communication out of the state Senate for this district is good. There's not a lot of transparency. There's not a lot of information. It's hard to find information sometimes. And that's a big piece of what we want to do. So Andy says, it's definitely been interesting time for campaigning for candidates at every level. Yes, that's true. Taurus says, happy Taco Tuesday. That's true. I am not having tacos today. I haven't even thought about dinner yet. We'll get there at some point. But anyway, I think that's really important for me on this campaign as well, is not just that I advocate for the issues that I think are really important and that you all have told me are really important, but that we create ways for you to feel more involved in what's going on in the State House. Because ultimately, when I'm your state senator, I will represent you. It's critical that you know what I'm advocating for, what I'm voting on, what I'm working on. And right now, I just don't think we're seeing that level of communication. So that's really important for me and for our entire team. It has been a very, very overwhelming few weeks, but I will say I am proud of what I'm seeing across the South Shore and across this district. I'm so proud of so many, in many cases, young people coming out and organizing vigils and rallies and protests and sign holdings, for the Black Lives Matter movement, and in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and too many others. We issued, a letter to all of you from me, really outlining, where I stand on these issues and how critical it is that people like me, people who are running to be your state senator, but also people with a platform, people who are having a voice in policy, how critical it is that we are having these tough conversations, and not just conversations, but that we're taking really important steps and actions to eradicate systemic racism, to ensure that this is not just a trend or a moment, but that it's in fact a movement. And I'm by no means perfect. I am still very much learning. I'm still figuring out my role and my voice in all of this, and how I can be an effective ally and how I can be an effective legislator on these issues. Thanks, Sabrina. Thank you for that. So I'm definitely learning, and I am so grateful for every single person who has reached out to the campaign or to me personally and shared your perspectives, your insight, your concerns, your ideas. I think, again, back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, one of the reasons why I decided to run for state senate is because too often our elected officials go up there on Beacon Hill and they sit in their offices and they do their work, and we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what they're working on. Don't know how they're voting. We don't know what backroom deals they're making. We don't know, really what's going on at all. And frankly, I don't feel like there's an easy way to engage with them. And yes, I know that they say, oh, you can call my office, but let's be honest. I mean, I'm a busy working mom. I don't have time to just call up my state senator's office. We've got to make this easier for people to engage. We've got to make it easier for you all to share, your ideas and your perspectives and your opinions, and for me to share with you, what I'm working on and what I'm fighting for. And so, something like this community check-in is an example of that. I think it's really important that if you're going to represent an entire community of people, that you actually show up. And that doesn't just mean when there's a ribbon to cut or, for the photo op at an event. I think it's important that you show up and have actual conversations with people. And so that's something that we've been doing mostly over Zoom for the last few months, but something that I'm really excited to continue doing, and especially around this issue of racism, because I think we're seeing people wake up, and that gives me hope. I've talked to a lot of people who feel really despondent about the state of politics, the state of government, the state of society. And I definitely have those moments. I get it. But I also more recently have felt very hopeful. And someone actually asked me, oh, thanks, Mohammed. You honestly, you're my hero, because you are so incredibly strong and outspoken, and I love you and your entire family. So, but it's I'm hopeful, because when I go to these events, when I go to these rallies or these protests or these vigils, I see people there who I never would have thought I would have seen there before. And yeah, sometimes maybe it's performative. We can't discount that, but even just seeing some of our elected officials in the same space as someone holding a Black Lives Matter sign is not something that I think we would have seen 2 years ago. And so it gives me hope. And frankly, it's more than just that. It's also every single person who is out there willing to be uncomfortable, because this is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable stuff to talk about. It's hard. It's really hard. And I'm not saying that to sort of give anybody a pat on the back. I don't mean it in that sense, but I've seen people really push themselves outside of their comfort zones. We shared on the campaign Facebook page maybe a couple of days ago, I think we did at least, an article about if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing the work, or how uncomfortable are you? Like, ask yourself, are you uncomfortable enough? And I'll be honest that there are definitely days where I'm not uncomfortable enough. There are days when I say I haven't pushed myself enough. I haven't engaged in the work enough today. But even just, I think, asking that question and doing that analysis is progress. Because this is not just a moment. I do not believe that it's just a moment. I believe it's a movement. And I also don't just believe this is about racism. I mean, it is, the Black Lives Movement certainly is, but this is about the way for too long, too many people have been treated like dirt, treated like nothing. It's about how our systems are set up to fail so many people. And I have hope that, you know, the people who really need to be a part of doing this work are a part of the conversation now. Chris said these discussions aren't supposed to be comfortable. Comfortable breeds complacency. Yeah, keep the pressure on. That's exactly right. And you know what? Thank you, Chris, for saying that. And they're not supposed to be comfortable. And it's about keeping the pressure on not just other people, but also on ourselves too. And that's why I liked that article I shared a few days ago, because I think it can be very easy to say, well, I donated money and I went to the rally or the vigil and I did this, or even with us, like, okay, we crafted this letter to the community that we put a lot of heart and soul into, and I stand by and I'm so proud of. And okay, we, rolled out these policy initiatives and we said the policies we're going to support. And so it could be so easy to just sort of check it off and say, we did our part, we're done. But that's not the hard work. Like that's not the hard work. It's the first step, but it's not the hard work. And so we have to continue to be uncomfortable every single day. We have to continue to have these conversations and actions. I want to be clear, and actions. It's not just about conversations. And the reason I think I say I'm hopeful is because I'm seeing so many people engage in this work now in our communities, but I'm also seeing it in the business world too. I'm an online business owner and I'm seeing it there. And that's not a space I thought was going to touch this stuff. That's a space that is sort of, at least the one that I'm operating in, is very known for, we don't talk about politics here. We don't talk about politics here. Like, it's very much that fear of, oh gosh, please nobody bring up politics. And so I have hope. Mohammed says, Massachusetts has always led the way in paving the road for others. Biggest example is how Massachusetts was the first to legalize gay marriage. Yeah, absolutely. And, I've been saying a lot, people have been asking why I'm running. And one of the things that I often will say is because a few years ago, when I really started to dive into the issues that I care about, that I realized that Massachusetts wasn't as sort of good as I thought it was. Like in the past, I used to think, we're Massachusetts. We got gay marriage. We're good. And that's so far from the truth. And so I think I've been saying that a lot recently, but Mohammed, I'm glad you put that comment in there, because it is a good reminder that even though we have a lot we need to fix, we have, and it's not just gay marriage, it's healthcare. We have taken the lead on some pretty big issues in the past. And we have the opportunity to do that now. Like, that's why I'm hopeful. That's why in the midst of all of this tragedy and all of everything that's going on with COVID and Black Lives Matter and massive economic inequality, it's why I'm excited, because I feel like this is an opportunity. People are uncomfortable. They are keeping themselves uncomfortable because I think people get that this is the time. Like, it's now or never. And it's so important that we don't let that fade away. It's so important that we remember that no matter what happens at the federal level, now or in November or whenever, that we have power at the state level, we have power at the local level, and that every single one of us has a voice in this. And I mean, if you don't believe that, just look at what's happened over the last few weeks with the police officers who were involved, former police officers now, who were involved in George Floyd's murder. I mean, because of the massive protests, because of the calls for their arrest, that happened. And we're seeing that happen everywhere as regular, everyday people are standing up and saying, they're speaking out and they're saying, this is not okay. And they're putting pressure on and they're calling for action. And that's what we've got to keep doing. And it's, Yeah, Chris used the word complacency, and I think that's such a good word, because when I think about a lot of elected officials right now, complacency is the word that comes to mind. Um, and look, I don't have the lived experience of having been in an elected position. Um, but I also know that when you are interviewing for this job, when you are running and saying to people, let me represent you, let me be the voice for you in the state house. If all you do when you get there is be complacent, then you are failing the people that you are supposed to be representing. And it's exhausting to not be complacent. It's not always fun. It definitely, almost certainly comes with, angst and disagreement and discomfort. But that is the job that you are running for. That is the job that you're doing. And so when I look around and I see so many elected officials being complacent, it makes me very sad, because these people are supposed to be our voices. And in the absence of them doing their job, we need to remember that they did not take away our voices. Simply because they represent us does not mean that we do not have voices. So if they are not doing their jobs, we need to be speaking out. We need to be putting the pressure on. We need to be reminding them that they are there to represent us. And that is something that every single day that I'm in the state Senate, I want to be reminded of. I want to be reminded that I represent you. And that is why a big focus for my team is on how we can bring more people into the conversation, how we can engage more people. It's why I have already committed to continuing these Facebook Live conversations. We're working on plans to expand them and bring more people into the conversation. But it's important to me that if I'm asking to represent you, then I need to show up for you. And that's something that I don't think we've seen enough from our elected officials. So, okay, well, I think I'm going to leave it there, because I've been talking for a bit. I'm happy to answer questions. I know we've got a bunch of people watching live, kind of coming and going, which is great. I am here every Tuesday, usually at 7:30. We've been having to push these a little bit because of other events, but I'm here every Tuesday night. Happy to answer any questions. Also very happy to announce today that my campaign has been endorsed by Run for Something, which is a national organization supporting people running for office at all levels. So I'm very excited to have received that endorsement. We've got a lot of fun opportunities this week for anyone who wants to volunteer with us. You can always find out more by going to megwheeler.com/volunteer. Of course, we always welcome your donations. We are running a grassroots campaign. We're not taking money from corporate PACs. We're not taking money from fossil fuel companies or energy companies. And so we would always, gladly welcome you as a grassroots donor, which you can do by going to megwheeler.com/donate. And we also have, tons of resources on our website. We still have our COVID resource page, which is megwheeler.com/COVID. We also have a page set up with anti-racism resources. So megwheeler.com/anti-racism. Plus, we'll be including our anti-racism policies there as we roll them out. But really, I just wanted to, again, show up for you, create a space where you could ask me questions if you've got questions, where we could, continue our conversation about everything that's going on. And I'm just very grateful for being able to spend a little bit of time in your life. And thank you all for all of the incredible work you're doing. We've got a lot more to do, but I know together we will find the change that we're seeking. So have a great night, everyone, and I will talk to you all next week.